Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk. I am a pediatrician and a run coach and the founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a very, very special guest with me. I have Dr. Nneka Unachukwu here, Dr. Una, as we affectionately call her. She is the founder of EntreMD, a company on a mission to help 100,000 physicians build profitable 7 and 7+ figure businesses so they have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on their terms. She does this through the EntreMD Business School, the only school of its kind for physician entrepreneurs. And full disclosure, I am a very happy student in the school for several years now. And she also hosts the EntreMD podcast, a top 10 podcast, and has many best-selling books. Dr. Una, as she is fondly called, has also been featured in Forbes, and her company hit number 315 on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing privately held companies in America. She is also a board certified pediatrician and resides outside Atlanta with her husband and 4 children. Dr. Una, welcome to the show, and I am so thankful that you are here to share your wisdom with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the warm welcome. I'm super pumped to be here. We've done this, but it's been a while, so I'm glad to be back.
It has been a while. And I was thinking, before we started, there are so many places that we could start the conversation. But I was thinking, you have made exercise and movement a very regular part of your life amidst all of these amazing things that you're doing. And I was wondering if you could speak to how your own journey with movement began and tell us a little bit about that and where it fits in for you.
Yeah, so I have a very interesting story because I think I'm someone who's your ideal client, but maybe not your best client. But I think my journey with movement really started because I love being outdoors. I love being outdoors, so I would take a lot of walks. At the time, I did not realize that I did that more for my mental health than my physical health. But I thought I liked doing walks because I love being active, but really I love taking walks because yes, I'm being active, but oh my goodness, it's such an opportunity to, air out my thoughts, dream, deal with, thoughts that are nagging, kind of look at all the things that are amazing in my life. And being in nature, there's just something about that. You're in nature a lot. So that's kind of, where that started from. I did a lot of walking. And then I always wanted to run. So in high school, I did 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters. I was never like top notch at it, but I did enough to qualify for races and stuff like that. But after medical school and all of that, I was like, I don't know if I can run, right? But I always secretly wanted to be a runner. I would do some 5Ks, but I would walk, run it, or just walk it really quickly. I was like, I cannot even imagine, finishing a whole 5K. I think that's, what really drew me to you when I first met you online. I was like, a run coach. And I'm like, so, right. And you had a program that I signed up for. And I remember you saying, okay, if you can't really run, just run between the, mailboxes. And I still remember that. It's like sometimes when I go out, I'm like, okay, I'm going to run today. I just hear you in my head, run between the mailboxes. And so I started running more. I started, really being able to stretch that. I'd like to say that I maintained it, Dr. Michelle, but
It's okay.
right.
It is
But
okay.
then the pandemic hit,
Mhm.
and something strange happened because now I was sitting a lot more, right? I'm doing
Yeah.
telemedicine. I'm really leading my practice as opposed to being the one in it, doing all the things because of course we're in the middle of a crisis, if you will. And I realized I was sitting way too much. And so my way of incorporating movement was then every time I answered the phone, I would open the front door and walk out. And till today, believe it or not, I still do that because it's now on autopilot. But if I pick up the phone, I'm just walking out and I forget sometimes I do that. So someone's like, are you outside? Like there's so many birds and they're so loud. I'm like, what birds? Because I've lived here for so long. So I don't really hear them. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I did that. And that was huge because I was getting a lot more steps. Sitting is the new smoking, they say. So I stopped smoking, if you will, and all of that. So that was really powerful. And then a few years after that, I started feeling like my body was getting older. And I was
Mhm.
like, hang on. Like I felt so much weaker. I was like, I thought like old age is supposed to creep up on you. Like you're like, now that I think about it, I don't think I'm as strong as I used to be. I'm like, I'm not supposed to feel this in real time. And so I remember going to church one day and I'm standing up straight. And I'm like, subconsciously, it's just that now I was aware of my thinking in this moment. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of tired. I'm too tired to stand up straight. And so I bent over and I was like, you're 44 years old. Like, if you're needing to bend over at 44, you're going to need a bed full time at 90. Like, what are you doing? And so that's when I was like, okay, the training that you've been dreaming of doing, this is the time. And apparently you've been trying to do it. You can't. So I hired a coach and then I started doing that. I started strength training 3 times a week, maintaining my walking, doing some running between the mailboxes, because I learned that from Dr. Michelle. And so that's kind of the way it's evolved. I will tell you something that you might find interesting. Um, I forgot that I was walking for my mental health. So I put
Mm.
my strength training time at my walking time, like exercise for
Ah,
exercise.
uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. But I didn't, I see, I wish I knew that. But I was just, I just swapped them out like exercise,
Yeah.
exercise.
Uh-oh.
And
Okay.
so I started feeling stressed out. I
Yeah.
started feeling this sense of, urgency, like do this now, do this now, like, frantic energy. And I was like, what in the world is this? It took me months, Dr. Michelle. It took me months to figure out what happened. And then finally I was like, oh, I took my mental toughness routine and my mental health routine and replaced it with a physical. I was like, no. So yeah. So we're working on putting that in a different
Wow.
spot. And I've gone back to taking care of myself and I'm back at peace the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, lots of
But that's
lots of
a,
movement
a
there.
a great realization because I mean, I'm not sure I would have necessarily realized that either, but I think over the years I have come to realize that walking and running time is that time when I'm not listening to music anymore. When I started, I used to, but now I don't. And I think the closest thing I found maybe for me is swimming. Because same thing, right? It's just the sound of the water. Maybe not as interesting to me because it's the pool. It's a bit the same scenery, a little bit boring, but yeah. But the strength training you really have to think about, and you have a coach who's telling you what to do, so that's not really time that your brain is resting.
Yeah, it's not the same at all. I'm surprised, shocked. It took me months. I'm talking like for about 5 months. It
Wow.
wasn't 2 months. It was about 5 months. And I was like, oh, I was like, don't do that. Yeah. And like you, I think the next best thing is for me is taking a walk by the beach because I'm a bit of a germaphobe. So I'm not
Mhm.
trying to get in the water or anything like that. But I want to hear the waves and I could sit there for hours. Is the
Yes.
most magical thing for me. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. I love the water. I love being by the water and in the water. Well, how about, I gave this introduction. You are a very busy woman and entrepreneur. You have many hats that you wear. And in addition to running the several businesses that you run and the podcasts, the books, you're homeschooling your kids as well. How do you manage to fit the exercise in? If you have advice about that among all of the hats that you wear, how do you fit the exercise in so it gets done?
So that's a great question. The truth is I don't fit it in.
Mm.
It is a priority.
I
And
love that.
I don't fit it in at all. And I think this comes from, that I attend my 90th birthday party very often.
Mhm.
Very often. I'm like, so I learned this from Brian Tracy, and most people in the personal development world talk about this, like, what will be read at your funeral? And I'm like, yeah, I can't be thinking about my funeral. I'm a little too visual. I might just die, like if I spend that much time thinking about my funeral. So I replaced it with my 90th birthday party. And I started looking at the different aspects of my life, right? And so, for
Mhm.
instance, with my family, I wanted to be that, I left a legacy, and not just a legacy like money or, real estate or something like that, but a legacy of all the lessons that I learned. I was able to pass them on and they're living it out and they've taken it to a whole nother level and things like that. So it means, okay, so you need to invest in your kids now if that's what you want then. And so when it came to the health piece, I was like, I want to be strong. I want to be able to lift up my grandbabies. I want to be able to dance. I don't dance now, so it's so weird that I would say that, but
Ah.
I'm like, I want to dance. I want to feel good.
Mhm.
And so if I want that, then moving now is non-negotiable. You know what I mean? Like it's just non-negotiable. And I like being with people who are older, because you get to learn so many life lessons. And many of them, knowing what they now know, would have paid a lot more attention to their health. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, if that's where I'm going anyway, I mean, they already took one for the team. It makes no sense for me to take one. So I do prioritize it. I prioritize taking walks. I prioritize, lifting weights. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect. I think the other day I did a post. I said, I am most consistent at trying to be consistent. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you miss a day, you miss a week. It like
Mhm.
just pick up and continue, but it's the intent. And so I what I do is I have what I call a daily five. It's so weird because it's six things, but it's a daily five.
Yep.
And these are five things I do every day, no matter what. And I do them because I know these are things that will take me in the direction of my most important goals. Right. And so, if I can list them out quickly, like, the first will be prayer and meditation. Cause for me, I'm like, my relationship with God is number one, and it's not going to accidentally happen. So I make time for that. The second thing is what I call a me tweak. So meaningful time with kids is an acronym. And that's me spending time with my kids again, because this is a priority. I don't want to have all these successful businesses. I don't know who my children are. Right.
Yep.
And we live in a time where everybody can be on their devices. So you think you spent time with your kids, but you didn't actually spend time with them. And so I have that. I have reading, because the worst thing you can do as a leader is stop growing, because you're the lid, right? You become the problem of your people. And so reading, so that way every day I'm getting better, and then I can lead my people to even more and more, right?
Mhm.
So reading, listening to podcasts. And I do that because motivation wears off. And so I motivate myself every day by listening to a podcast or something like that. So I do that. I look at my goals, because out of sight is literally out of mind. And I've done that before, where year to year it was the same.
Mhm.
And then the fifth thing is exercise. And so that walk it's happening, and all of that. And I'm just like, this is what I'm doing to put myself in a position to be strong at 90. So I don't fit it in at all.
Mm.
I make it happen.
I love that. I think everybody has to pause and go back and then listen to that part again. It's amazing. But it's true. And you're right. Motivation wears off. I love to run, but there are some mornings when the alarm goes off and I don't want to wake up and go out there either.
Yep. This would be the human experience.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I think now, we are both at a place where we know how good we feel afterward, and that other things begin to suffer if we don't do that daily five or daily six or whatever that is for you. But it's the truth. You touched on it a little bit, but your assistant Jessica calls you the queen of consistency, and I think that is definitely spot on. And one of the things that I admire about you and strive for in my own life. And I think, can you provide some, I think you hit on it a little bit, but provide some mindset or insight into the power of consistency and how that has helped you over time? That's a big question.
Yeah. So I love consistency because like there's so many things I'm doing in my life now that I did not feel I would be the person who would do that. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like the underdog and all of those things. And I think one of the things that takes people who maybe are not considered qualified for certain things from where they are to places where they're like, okay, how did I get here? I think it's consistency, is putting in the reps, right? Like, so
Mhm.
at the time of this recording, we just finished watching the Olympics and all of those things. Like, there's nobody who got there by not putting in the reps. Like, it's just not possible. And this is not reps for 2 days or 2 weeks. This is years of reps. And so imagine they run a race and, they complete a race in 9 seconds, but they've been training for 2 decades to run a race for 9 seconds and win.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it was just such a reminder of the power of consistency. Like, you do not get to be a champion without consistency. So when we come back to the mindset piece, I've thought a lot about this, like what is behind this. I think the first thing is I separated consistency and motivation.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times, like, I don't, I would have done that, but I was not motivated. I have done things I didn't feel like doing. I didn't care to do. I was not feeling inspired. I was just like, well, I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. And so that sounds boring. It doesn't sound, like shiny and like entrepreneurial and all these things that we think. But I mean, like, the things that will make you successful in as a runner or as an entrepreneur, a lot of them are boring.
Yes.
There's no light bulbs going on. There's no like you're just doing the thing. And how was it? I did the thing. Like it literally is that. And I've
Mhm.
allowed myself do that. I've allowed myself do things without being motivated. I've allowed myself like it's okay. Motivation is not required. Doing it is required though, but motivation is not required. And so I think that has helped me. There are days like I don't feel like doing anything, but I just do it. And I'm
Mhm.
okay doing bored. So I'm okay being bored.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. Like I'm fine. I do not have the need to be constantly entertained and tickled and motivated. Like I'm okay being bored.
Yeah.
And I realized that for very success, like you think Simone Biles, every time she's going to do her stuff, she's like, "Oh, this is so exciting." Of course not. I'm sure that time she was bored out of her mind. Like, but if you want
Yeah.
to be a champion or not, and so I think that's the other things. Like I'm okay being bored, and I think the third thing is that even though I allow myself do things without motivation, then I build systems that motivate me,
Mm.
right? Like I
Okay.
build those systems, and
Mhm.
so as somebody who when I started doing the strength training, for instance, that is not my jam. Well,
Yeah.
that was not my jam. Okay. I'm like, I don't want to be sweating. I don't want to be lifting anything. I don't want to be grunting. Like, I don't want the pain in my muscle. Like people are like, ooh la la, it feels so good. I'm like, I don't want to feel none of that. Okay. So it was just not my thing. And the idea I came up with, I was like, well, I can watch people working out on YouTube, watch a video like this is how you do, like this is how you lift this is how you lift that, this is how you work this muscle, all of these things. And the more I would watch them, the more motivated I would get.
Hmm.
Now I don't rely on the
Mhm.
motivation, but I
Mhm.
create the motivation, right? And
Mm.
so I would do that. I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to people talking about this stuff. I'll look at people who are 90 and strong. I'll do all of those things just to keep myself motivated. So that's a trick I played on myself, right?
I
Like
like that.
I would constantly do that. And then I think the fourth thing is um realizing, like if we look at nature, if I buy, an acre of land, I don't put anything there, something will grow. It's
Hmm.
called weeds,
Yeah.
right? But if I want to have this beautiful garden, I'm going to have to intentionally plant it. And what that means is that the default is weeds, the default is decay, the
Mm.
default is what you don't want, period. And so, because I understand that, then I also build systems of accountability because my natural bent is not to do what I need to do, period. And it's not me, it's not you, it's not like anything is wrong with anybody. This is just the way nature is. Okay. Our default is just to self-destruct, really. So for me, I knew there was no way I was going. I had tried for 3 years. I had tried from the time I turned 40
Mm.
to build this routine of lifting weights. I
Mhm.
didn't get it done. And so, that day when I realized that, at church that I was like, I'm too tired to stand up straight. I'm just going to bend over. The next day, I drove to a gym, I hired a coach, and started working with a coach. Right. And this was my system of accountability. Because
Mhm.
if I have the coach, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't. And this is human nature. Like there's no need asking why it is. It just is. And so
Yeah.
since it is, what are you going to do? Right. And so those are some of the things. So for instance, someone listening to this and they've been in your world and they want to be a runner and all, just hire Dr. Michelle Quirk. It will create motivation, it will create accountability, it will create, you know what I mean? And so don't overthink it. Like just do it. And sometimes people will say, well, it costs me this much to go to the gym, or it costs me this much to hire a trainer. I'm like, but compared to what though? Like being bedridden at 90?
No, thank you.
Having all these chronic illnesses, not feeling strong, feeling bad. Do you know sometimes you're fine? Like you're not sick, but you just don't feel good. Like that's so yucky. Like you'll pay money to make that go away. And so the money you would invest now compared to the pain and suffering later, there's no comparison, right? So what do they call it? An ounce of discipline or a ton of regret. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
just get the accountability. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's worked the same for me too. I think when I started running, I didn't really know what I was doing way back then. And I was going way too far and too fast. And a lot of people start out that way. And once I hired my own coach and like sort of learned a little bit more, you're right though, it's mostly boring. When he was like, well, you mostly just need to run at like your conversation pace. And I was like, what? Where's all the speed workouts? When am I going to the track? But no, it's mostly boring.
And this is life. This is the path to greatness is filled with boring things you do over and over and over and over again. Now there are going to be moments of motivation,
Of
moments
course.
of
Yes.
excitement,
Yes.
but it's mostly boring.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
But yeah, coaches all along the way, running, triathlon, business, really has given motivation, accountability, like things on the calendar to work toward. It's been wonderful.
For
Well,
me
can
too.
you tell everybody about your new book that just came out?
Yeah, I'm the most excited about this book, maybe because it's my last one. Who knows what I'll say about the next book. But this is the deal. Like EntreMD is the company I spend most of my time working in at this stage. And what we do is we help doctors build profitable businesses so we have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on our terms. And I've had the pleasure of doing this for the last 6 years at the time of this recording. And the reason why I'm so excited about this book is because we do really have a crisis on our hands, and literally all hands are needed on deck. I'll give you an example to put it in perspective. So, um, a few months ago, Walmart announced that it was going to shut down 51 clinics in Florida. Okay, so this is 51 clinics in one state. And I remember reading that and I'm like, oh my word. I was like, if they have 1,000 patients per location, that is 51,000 patients who know, 1,000 patient panel is a small panel, right?
Yeah.
And so 51,000 patients are now displaced. Where are they going to find the doctors who are going to take care of them and all of that? And I said, I wonder how many private practices are thriving and have the capacity to absorb the patients, to take care of them, to do all of these things. And I said, we have a healthcare crisis like staring us in the face if we don't figure out how to help private practice owners thrive, right?
Mhm.
And so this book is called The Profitable Private Practice Playbook, and it shows the top 7 ways private practice owners leave money on the table and how to fix it. And in it I show doctors how, like, you start applying this, you can literally add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your bottom line. And that means we get to keep you in business. And that means you get to stay to take care of us. And we live happily ever after, in a way. Okay.
Mhm.
And so this book it's not fluff. There's nothing fluffy about it. It's here's a book. Get a copy for yourself, get a copy for your office administrator. You guys go install the book in your business, like install the principles in your business, and everything's better. Like it's the best $15 you ever spend. Like you can get the Kindle version for $2.99. It's the best money you ever spend for your private practice with the biggest ROI. And someone may be listening and they're like, but I'm not a physician. But you have physicians. You have a
Mhm.
family doctor, you have a pediatrician, you have a cardiologist, you have all of this. Like practices
Gift
are
them the
going
book.
out of business. Yes, get them the book. Private practices are going out of business like hotcake. In 2021, 11,000 private practices either sold out to private equity or went out of business. 11,000. How many years can we absorb that kind of loss for, right? And so that's the book. For those of you on YouTube, is a profitable private practice book. It's a book every human in the United States should be buying, either for your own practice or for somebody who owns a private practice or for your doctor, because all hands are needed on deck.
Thank you for writing it. And all of Dr. Una's books they're very readable. They're a quick read, but a lot of value in those pages. Like every page is well thought out.
Thank
And she
you.
gives you a roadmap for how to do things, which is also what I love. So you can take notes and then apply it as soon as you're done with the chapter.
I think you were the one who said, Dr. Una has a blueprint or framework for everything. Was that you
That
many
is
years
me.
ago?
And I have On
I just
my
remembered it.
desktop of my computer, we have the roadmap, the success roadmap in EBS, and that's been version 1.0, 2.0, but that's on the desktop of my laptop here.
I love it.
But yes, she has a blueprint for everything. And also tell everyone where they can find you. You have several amazing podcasts.
Yeah, so the podcast I'd like to, the EntreMD podcast, so ENTREMD, that's where we talk all things business of medicine, how to build a dominant brand, how to learn how to create revenue in your business, all the mindset drama that shows up, we tackle all of that. And so for those of you already on a podcast platform, you can just search there and subscribe, and you get a business education, every single day. And then as far as, my other books, other podcasts, all that, if you go to our website, entremd.com, you get access to everything else, find out more about the business school that Dr. Michelle has been talking about, buy the books. But we have tons of resources. Like, as physicians, we did not get a business education. However, that's no longer a problem because that's what we do.
And thank you for doing it. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself and your tips with us today. I think this is an episode that we need to go back and listen to again.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for what you do. I'm still reaping the benefits of, us working together and the work you do with your podcast, your YouTube, social media, all of that. I'm not sure you'll ever really be able to quantify the true impact of your work, but it's really important, and we're grateful you do it.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. And thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.